We're up to Oish Yud, and the Rebbe is discussing over here the Maila, the advantage of the Guf over the Neshama. That's why Tchias HaMesim will be Dafke Beguf. And the Rebbe explained the Maila in the natural, the essence of the Guf, that it loves physical matters, it loves Madanim, it loves Kesef V'Zohov. That's actually going to be Losid Lavoi because that's part of the guf providing for the neshama. The neshama is nizum haguf, so that's not a negative, and that's why madanim kov. That's going to add to the deus Hashem. The Rebbe is going to explain now that the reason why it's always we're saying that even though the iris are higher than the kalim, but when the iris come down to the kalim, they get a higher level of iris. It is because the Eibishter wants that the same thing should happen, the neshama with the guf. The neshama is the iris, the guf is the kalim, and that the iris, the neshama, should benefit from the guf, and that's why that's the seder everywhere. Let's look inside. Yud hine mevur bekama mekoimes. It's explained in many places. The zeh sheshoyresh haguf ulemailo meshoyresh haneshama. This that we're saying that the root of the body is higher than the root of the neshama. Who? Kineshama v'guf hem dugmas oiris v'kelim. A neshama and a body are similar to the oiris and kelim. V'shoyresh hakelim ulemailo meshoyresh ha'oiris. The root of kelim is higher than the shoyresh of the oiris, and therefore the neshama with the guf is a similar way. The root of the guf is higher than the root of the neshama. Okemoy shal yidei hamshochas v'yislapshus ha'oiris b'hakelim nase yisroin v'hoisofa b'ha'oiris. Just like when the oiris are drawn and dress up in the kelim, there becomes an advantage and an addition to iris. The iris benefit, they become more, it becomes more advantageous to the iris once it comes down in the kelim. So this similar is by the neshama v'guf, which is the iris and the kelim, similar to the iris and kelim. Shal yidei yeridas haneshama v'ipslapshusa beguf. Through the descent of the neshama and dress up in the body. Misalis haneshama l'madrega nalis yoyse mikmoy shoyse koydem v'ridosa. The neshama is elevated to a higher level more than it was before it descended. Okay. So we're bringing an example from Oiris V'Kelim that we understand that the same thing is when the neshama descends, although it's a very high level, it's Oiris above before it comes down. But when it comes down to the body, there's an advantage. There's a sofa in addition to the neshama, just like there's an addition to Oiris when it comes to the Kelim. But the Rebbe explains that actually it's the other way around, which means because the Eibishter wants that there should be an addition to the neshama when it comes down to the guf, that's why there is a sofa in the iris when it comes to the kelim. It explains. Papi hayadua, based on what is known, when we say that the world was created because of Yidden. Bereishis bara lekim, Rashi says right in the beginning of the Chumash. Bereishis b'shvil beis reishis, that bara lekim b'shvil Yisrael, b'shvil HaTorah b'shvil Yisrael, because of Yidden. So when we say that the world creation comes because of Yidden, we're not only talking We're not only talking about the creation of this world is because of Yidden, but actually all kinds of revelations that come down. All Giluyim are for a Yid. So Yesh Loimar, so Mele, so also Oiris V'Kelim, not directly connected to creating of the world. Also, this avoid of Oiris V'Kelim are also for Yid. And Yesh Loimar, the Hatam Apnimi Al Zeh Sheshoirish HaKelim U'Lemayla M'Shoirish HaOiris. What is the inner reason why Take is the root of Kelim higher than the root of Oiris? And Vishal Yidei HaKelim Nas Yisre Ba'Oiris, and then through the Kelim there becomes an advantage in the Oiris. Hu Lefi Shakavona da Oiris V'Kelim Hu B'Shvil Yisrael. And because the Kavona of the Gilu of Oiris V'Kelim is for a Yid, Bichdei Shal Yodom Yumshach Inyan the Neshama V'Guf. So through them, this idea that the neshama comes to the guf and the neshama gets elevated, this whole idea, that is the inner reason why the oiris come to the kelim. B'kivan sheshoirish haguf hu lemaylo mishoirish haneshama. So since the root of the body is higher than the root of the neshama, like we said before, the neshama is a ben, but the guf is bechira. The Eibusher shows the ba'guf or bechira za'atzmus. In the body is bechira za'atzmus. Lochein. So the whole idea of oiris v'kelim is for a yid, and by a yid the shoyrish of the guf is neshama, because in the guf is bechira za'atzmus. Lochein. Nishabu ha'oiris v'kelim be'oifen. That's why the oiris v'kelim have been brought into being in a way. Sheshoirish ha'kelim u'lemayla m'shoirish oiris, so that the root of kelim is higher than the root of oiris, because the root of the guf is higher than the neshama, and the whole reason for Kelim and Oiris is for the Yid. So therefore, the root of Kelim is higher than the root of Oiris. Elo. But there's a difference between when we say Oiris v'Kelim, that the Kelim is higher than the Oiris. Over there we're talking about the Maila of Kelim is higher than Oiris. By Guf and the Neshama, it's not the Maila of Guf. It's not a Maila in Guf, it's Bechiras HaGuf. Because Guf doesn't have Mailas. It's a Bechira. Elo, Rebbe explains. Shebe Neshama v'Guf, when we talk about the Neshama and the body, Zeh she'shoirish HaGuf, hu l'maylo m'shoirish HaNeshama. The fact that the shoirish of the guf is higher than the shama, that is because huzeh sheba'guf u'b'chiras ha'atzmus. The maila of the guf is not a maila in the guf. The maila is because the Eibusher chose it. B'chira chovshis. Ve'ein ze shaykh le'inyan u'mailas ha'guf. That's not connected to the idea and the advantage that the body is a maila. That's the way it's by the neshama and the guf. So it's not the guf has a greater maila than on the neshama, but rather the guf was chosen. That's its maila, not that it has some advantage over the body. But u'ba'oiris v'kelim, when we talk about kelim, zeh she'shoirish ha'kelim hu l'maylo m'shoirish ha'oiris. The fact that kelim are higher oiris shayich li'inyonom da kelim. That is the idea of kelim. Kelim have a maila that they are higher than oiris. So similar becomes by the neshama and the body that are nishtalshul, was created b'shvil neshama and guf. So the neshama and guf are nishtalshul oiris kelim. דזה ששורש הגוף הוא למיילו משורש הנשמה, the way it comes out that the guf is higher than shorish haneshama, shayich gam le'inyan u'mailus haguf. That also has a connection to the advantage of the body. The body has a maila now in the way the guf is higher from the neshama is because of bechira. But by Eires v'kelim, there's a maila because there's a maila in kelim. And then when it comes down the neshama v'guf, there's actually a maila in the guf over the neshama, that the guf itself has that advantage. And because of this, we understand that we always need the guf. That's the Rebbe is going to explain now. That we need all the time the guf because of its smiler. V'al pizeh yesh levayer hatam al zeh. So now we can explain what's the reason sha'yisrain shal yidei birur ha'amim. The advantage that takes place, that birur ha'amim kisish peit amim misher, was going to be la'osid lovoi, which is going to be the mizmoir that is going to bring the shir. That is going to be the advantage to the neshama. Shahayisrain shal yidei birur ha'amim. The advantage that takes place by sorting out the nations. Shemekablim mahamalochim sheshorshim hu ma'kelim. The nations, they receive from malachim, which are rooted from kelim. Versus neshamas, they are the Yidden. Yidden are from Oiris. These are nations. They come from malachim, which come from kelim. So there will be Yigam Mesa Mashiach. We'll also have this whole idea of the Goyim, Skisishpet Amim Mishar, and the whole, as it says in the team, it'll be a Mesa Mashiach, Kinal Sivov. Kizeh shal Yidei HaKelim Nase Yisraim B'Ha'oiris, because this, that through the Kelim there becomes an advantage in the Oiris, Humipnei Shahashoiresh Ha'amitis, the Eires v'kelim hu inyan the neshama v'guf, is because the true root of Eires v'kelim is neshama v'guf. The Eibishter created b'shvil Yisrael for the neshama and guf of the Yidden. That's the goal. B'lachein, and therefore, K'moy sha'aliyah da neshama sha'al yidei haguf. Just like the elevation of the neshama that takes place by coming down to the body. Hiloi rak sha'al yidei avodas ha'neshama b'guf himisalis. It is not just that through the avodas neshama guf, it's elevated. Like we learned earlier in the first option, that the neshama gets the higher level the way it's in Moyach Ha'av in a higher level. No, it's more than that. We say that the Gufi Misalis Achakach Lemadregen Ali is not that it just the neshama goes to a higher level. Elo Shagam Ha'aliyah Atzmoi the La'osid Lovoi, but also the Aliyah of La'osid Lovoi who Sha Neshama Nizonis Ma'guf. Then the neshama will be nurtured from the guf. The guf will provide for the neshama. Not the guf will make the neshama higher. The neshama will feed, the guf will feed the neshama. Al derech zehu b'negei Yisrael. Hashar al yidei hakelim. So similarly is the advantage that is through the kelim. When the Iris dressed up in the kelim, and also the advantage of the malachim who come from kelim. So the advantage of kelim and the advantage of the malachim is all like the guf. It's not It's all like the guf which feeds the neshama. And also the advantage of sorting out the nations of the world with get malachim. So basically, these three things go together: kalim, malachim, and umas ha'olam, because the malachim come from kalim, the umas ha'olam come from the malachim. They're rooted. So what happens is, and this is all because of the guf and the way the guf works, that it provides for the neshama. So therefore, this advantage will be also in the future. The nations of the world, you'll be mevar nation of the world, will add to the shefat that gives to the Yid. The Rebbe asked before, why is it necessary to have the bitter umas olam even la'asid lavoi, in which we say that, okay, in this world you're mevarer the nefesh habahamis, you're mevarer the nations, but we say no, even la'asid lavoi, it will be kisish v'dam misha, because just as la'asid lavoi, the guf will continue to feed the neshama. And as the Rebbe explained, because the guf is advantageous over the neshama because it comes from the level of bechira, and then it's going to feed even after la'asid lava, betchiyas hamesim, the guf is going to feed the neshama. The similar way is all the oiros v'kelim, the malachim and the birur of the nations, that they impact of mevarer them is going to be advantageous to the shefa that comes to the yidden from them. Yudalef, v'hine yodua, the zeh sh'haneshama roitze leidet lemato lahachis es haguf. Why does a neshama want to go down to vitalize the body? So now here we're saying that it wants to go down to the body. Now we understand now, because now we just explained that there is an advantage to the neshama by going down to the body. It doesn't have on its own. So it says that it wants to go umipnei shaneshama margeshes mailas haguf mitzad shorsha, because the neshama feels the advantage of the body because the shoyrish of the body is higher. That the root of the body is higher than the neshama, than the root of the neshama. So the neshama wants to go to the guf because the guf has a higher root. That's why he wants to go down to vitalize the body. Well, how are we saying that the neshama wants to go down? But we know it says in Pirkei Avos, Chazal tell us that the neshama doesn't want to really go down. Here we're saying that it's yodua, that the neshama senses that there's an advantage to the guf, but that doesn't seem to fit with the Maimer Hazal, that the neshama bal korcho chatachai doesn't want to be in the body. And the Rebbe explains when it says bal korcho chatachai, meaning it's not because in an open way it's hidden. In other words, it's not the neshama is forced because it senses a mile in the guf. That's called kilu force. Let's look inside. And this that our sages tell, that against your will you live. And here we're saying the neshama wants to come down because it senses the mile of the guf. So what did Razal say? The kivon shah rotzin da neshama lahachis is a guf. Because this desire that the neshama wants to vitalize the body is not the neshama on its own wants that. It's because it senses the root of the body. That's called hechrach. It's not something that the neshama on its own wants to do. It's only doing it because it senses that there is a higher root in the body. That is called forced. So we're saying that the neshama be'etzem doesn't want to go to the body on its own. It's only because it senses the root of the body. How does the neshama sense the root of the body? This that it gets, that it feels the root of the body. That feeling is not really the aspect of the neshama. That's why it's al-korchach. The neshama itself it gets it. We can understand it, the fact that we're saying this desire to vitalize the body from the feeling is called forced. What does it mean, forced? So it means that on your own, it's not you're not into it on your own. The neshama isn't into it on his own to vitalize the body. It's only it wants to come down because it senses the mila is something outside of it. So how does it feel it? Hu kibichdei sheyiyah lo rotzeh lahachzis es haguf. In order it should have that desire to vitalize the body, nimshach bo gilu shoyresh haguf. The soul gets in it the root of the guf in the neshama, so that the neshama should sense the mile. Av shem mitzad atzmo gam kimoshi mitzad shorsho. Although the neshama itself, even as it is in its root, does not have a connection to that revelation, but she gets that revelation so that she should want and sense the mile of the guf. Through the revelation of the root of the guf, which shines in the neshama, but often the in a way that it's forced into feeling that way, before it descends below. So the neshama already gets a feeling. Hinasis k'moikeli, she becomes like a vessel, lahagilui, the shoyresh haguf shemeir ba'achar. She becomes like a vessel to accept the revelation of the root of the body that she gets later on. It is because even before coming down, it already has a taste of that root of the guf. Ayidei avedoso behaguf. So because so when it works with the guf, then it is a keli to get that. The Rebbe will explain that that's why we need Vayomer lo Yohainesen to make it into a keli. Al derech zeh hu ba'inyan deires v'kelim. Similar, it's in the idea of oires v'kelim. The zeh shal yidei his slapshus ha'oires ba'kelim. The fact that through the oires dressing up in kelim, nimshach b'hem b'chinas shoyresh ha'kelim, they get the root of the kelim. Who al yidei shenirgash b'hem oid koidem yiridosim ba'kelim shoyresh ha'kelim. And that is that through, even before the oil comes in the keli, they get in the oiris is nimshach, the root of the kelim, which means they feel before the descent the root of the kelim, and that's why they come down to the kelim, and that's why later on they get the higher madrega from the kelim. So likewise, it's also with the idea of Sfiras Ha'emer and Matan Torah. The Zeh Shal Yidei Hayirida, the Nefesh Halikis, Levarid Hamid is the Nefesh HaBahamis. That the fact that through the descent, that the Nefesh Elikis descends to be Mevarid, to sort out the Midas of Nefesh HaBahamis, which is Yipoked Moshavecho, to go down Vishilashto Tered Moed, we said before, Yipoked Moshavecho, the level of bittel, to go down and to sort out Nefesh HaBahamis. Nimshach Bo Hagilui, the Matan Torah, Mitzad Mailas Habirurim, Kinal Siv Dalet. So then you get the revelation of Matan Torah, the Segel, the Segolto, the higher level, because of this Segel that you went down Birurim, you get to the Segolto, to the higher level, as we said earlier in Siv Dalet, who. So why is that? Ka'irida levarer hamidas the nefesh habahamis, because that descent of being mevarer nefesh habahamis, bo la'achrei v'al-yidei hagilu d'yitzias Mitzrayim. It comes after, it follows, and it comes through the revelation of Yitzias Mitzrayim. So Yitzias Mitzrayim already infuses the neshama, the nefesh alikis, with that extra power, with the sense that it can be mevarer the nefesh haba'amis, the sfiras ha'emer, and then it'll get the gili of Matan Torah, but it already got the hamshacha through lechatchila, that's by Matan Torah. By day hagilu di Yitzias Mitzrayim nirgash bo gam lifnei erida malas haberurim. So the gilu of Yitzias Mitzrayim, through that gilu, it's felt even before the descent, the advantage of Birurim. Mikivon shayitzia mimitzrayim hoysu berechush gadol. That was the great fortune that came from Yitzias Mitzrayim. It was the great fortune. It already recognized and appreciate coming out of Mitzrayim, the bitter of Mitzrayim brought this rechush gadol. So this prepares them to want to go down to the Birurim. And once the Berurim, they will be getting the elevation of Matan Torah. Yud Beis. Zeu vayomer lo Yehoinus hamochar chodesh v'nifkadeto ki yipoked meshavecha. Shebichdei shal yidei yipoked meshavecha. In order, through the yipoked meshavecha, which is the Berurim, Yeh v'nifkadeto should be the level of nifkadeto, the higher level of who al yidei hamshocha de vayem lo yonason. First has to be vayem lo yonason, to give the yutke, to give it to be mamshich, and then you can be v'nifkadeto. Shu al derech ha'in Yitzias Mitzrayim u'kriyas yamsu, just like Yitzias Mitzrayim kriyas yamsu, she'al yidei zeh. That way, by Yitzias Mitzrayim and Kriyas Yamsuf, there was a tremendous light to give Nirgash Oid Lifnei Hayirida Malas Berurim. So then you feel, even before the descent, you feel the advantage of the Berurim. Bezeu v'nifkadeto ki yipoked meshavecha. So we say specifically, your place will be missing. Why don't we say Chisorn? Why we say Loshen Yipoked? The Meloshem Mashon Mezem Mashma Shaya Shaychus. The Yipoked li nifkadeto, that the connection to from the Yipoked to Vinikato loy mitzad habitl shebi Yipoked meshavecha. Yipoked means to remember, or Yipoked means missing, but it's not the lacking, it's not the negation, not the bitl. That is the Yipoked meshavecha. Elo mitzad ha'inyan, the Yipoked meshavecha atzmo kinal sif aleph. But it's because of the idea of Yipoked meshavecha by itself, as we said before in Sif Aleph. Ki hayirid aliyah da haneshama shal yidei yiridosa beguf. In other words, it's not a mila that comes through bittul, but it comes directly from the birurim. It's Yipoked ha'atzma. That is the birurim. It's kaliyah da neshama shal yidei yiridosa beguf. The elevation of the neshama by descending the body. Who loy mipnei shal yidei zem izgala inyan da neshama bittul v'chulu. It's not through this is revealed the neshama bittul, El mitzad aguf atzmei kinal sivhei, but it's mitzad the body itself. I said before, al derech zeh hu benegeya leho inyan de nifkadeto. I hate to stop here. We have just a little bit, a few lines left, but I need to run out. The garbage is outside. I want to chop them before they leave. Okay, so
Okay.
there will be mamshit from here.
Next time. Okay. Bye bye.